My brother stole everything from me, and my parents took his side. The morning alarm would ring at 4:30 a.m., and I'd already be awake. Most 23-year-olds weren't working two jobs, but I had a plan. Every dollar I earned from the warehouse morning shift and evening retail hours went into a carefully maintained spreadsheet. Freedom had a price tag, and I was determined to pay it in full. My own apartment, my independence. It all required sacrifice now for stability later. That's what adults did, or at least that's what I thought. The downstairs creaked with familiar morning sounds. My father's heavy steps toward the kitchen, my mother's gentle humming. I'd slip past them with a travel mug of coffee, nodding politely as they wished me well. We weren't a family of many words, especially in those early hours. The unspoken agreement was that I'd contribute to household expenses while building my escape fund. They seemed proud of my work ethic, even if they rarely said so directly. Then Tyler moved back home. My younger brother had lasted exactly one semester at State before deciding college wasn't his thing. He rolled up the driveway in a car our parents had helped him buy, speakers blaring, bedroom eyes from 3 days without proper sleep. At dinner that night, my parents fussed over him like he'd returned from war instead of a 5-month party he'd squandered their money on. I kept my thoughts to myself and excused myself early. The warehouse shift started before dawn. Within weeks, Tyler established his new routine. Sleeping until noon, playing video games, occasionally picking up a shift at the pizza place when he felt like it. He'd strut through the house like he was doing everyone a favor by existing. The contrast between us couldn't have been more stark. I was rarely home, working 60-hour weeks, while he was always there, doing nothing of consequence. I first noticed my phone charger missing, then my favorite hoodie, a few beers from my designated shelf in the fridge. Small things, irritating but ultimately insignificant. When I'd confront Tyler, he'd shrug and say he borrowed them. The items would reappear, sometimes damaged, sometimes not. I didn't make a big deal of it. Family peace seemed worth more than a frayed charger cable or a stretched-out hoodie. Besides, I was so exhausted most days that arguing required energy I simply didn't have. February arrived with bitter winds and a rare blessing, a full weekend off from both jobs. My friend Marcus had moved to Cincinnati the year before, always inviting me to visit. I finally had enough saved to justify the trip, plus the time away from my increasingly tense home situation felt necessary. I packed lightly, a duffel with clothes, my laptop for showing Marcus some music I'd been working on, and my prized acoustic guitar. I'd learn later that I should have taken everything that mattered. Those 3 days with Marcus were the lightest I'd felt in months. We hiked despite the cold, caught a local band, talked about everything and nothing until 3 a.m. No alarm clocks, no snippy customers, no Tyler monopolizing the TV while I tried to decompress between shifts. Just freedom and friendship, a preview of the life I was working toward. The contentment evaporated the moment I opened my bedroom door Sunday night. I stood frozen, unable to process what I was seeing. My room had been ransacked, not by burglars but by someone who knew exactly what was valuable. My laptop stand sat empty on the desk. The guitar mount on the wall held nothing but air. The shoebox where I kept my collection of limited edition sneakers gone. Most devastating was the small fireproof lockbox I kept under my bed, containing nearly $7,000 in cash savings. I'd been wary of banks since watching my parents lose their home in the 2008 crash. That caution had now cost me everything. Blood pounding in my ears, I moved through the house with single-minded purpose. Tyler's door was locked, but the cheap interior doorknob gave way with a hard shoulder. Inside was the evidence. My sneakers arranged neatly on his shelf, my laptop open on his desk with new stickers I would never have placed, obscuring the dent in the corner I'd know anywhere. My guitar case leaned in his closet, visible through the half-open door. But no lockbox, no cash. Dude, what the hell? You can't just break into my room. Tyler stood in the doorway, an energy drink in his hand, the picture of entitled indignation. Where's my money? My voice didn't sound like my own, low, dangerous, unfamiliar even to me. What money? I just borrowed some stuff while you were gone. Chill out. He gestured vaguely at my belongings distributed around his room. Not like you were using it this weekend. $7,000, Tyler. Where is it? Something flickered across his face. Guilt? Maybe, or just annoyance at being confronted. Look, you've got jobs. You can make more. I needed it for some investments. Investments. The word tasted like acid. You stole my life savings for investments. It's not stealing when it's family. He took a casual sip of his drink. Besides, I was going to pay you back eventually. You're always so dramatic. I heard my parents' footsteps before I saw them, drawn by the commotion. My father's face was thunderous, my mother's concerned. I felt a surge of relief. Finally, adults who would understand the gravity of what had happened. They would make this right. Ryan, what on earth are you doing? My father's voice cut through the room. We could hear you shouting from downstairs. I explained quickly, pointing out my possessions scattered throughout Tyler's room, the missing money, the violation of my privacy and trust. With each word, I watched their expressions change. Not toward anger at Tyler, but toward disappointment in me. Tyler's going through a rough patch, my mother said softly. You know how hard it's been for him since dropping out. My father nodded. Family helps family, Ryan. Your brother needed support and you weren't here. What did you expect him to do? Not steal thousands of dollars I've spent 2 years saving? The words came out harsher than I intended, but the betrayal was overwhelming. Don't be selfish, my father snapped. Tyler made a mistake with school. He's trying to find his way. The last thing he needs is you making him feel worse about himself. I looked between them, understanding slowly dawning. There would be no justice here. No return of my savings, no consequences for Tyler. In their eyes, his emotional comfort outweighed my literal livelihood. So that's it? He takes everything I've worked for, and I'm supposed to just accept it as some kind of family tax. My mother touched my arm, her voice gentle but firm. We raised you to care about others, Ryan. Your brother is struggling. Be the bigger person here. That night, I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling, the weight of realization pressing on my chest. I'd always known my parents had a blind spot where Tyler was concerned. The baby of the family, the charming one, the one who needed extra help. But this was different. This was a fundamental betrayal of the values they claimed to have taught us. Work hard. Be honest. Respect others. Apparently, those rules applied only to me. By morning, I'd made my decision. I waited until everyone had left. My parents to work, Tyler to wherever he went when he claimed to be networking. I packed what remained of my possessions. Clothes, documents, the few personal items Tyler hadn't found interesting enough to take. It filled only 2 duffel bags, a depressingly small representation of my adult life so far. I left no note. What was there to say that wouldn't be dismissed as dramatic or selfish? Instead, I texted my friend Derek, who agreed I could crash on his couch until I figured something out. With one last look at the house I'd grown up in, I closed the door behind me, the soft click of the latch more final than any slam could have been. The first few nights at Derek's were rough. The couch was small, the apartment cramped with an extra person. But it was peaceful. No one touched my things. No one told me I wasn't trying hard enough or caring enough. I picked up extra shifts at both jobs, explained my situation to my managers, who generously advanced me some hours. 3 weeks later, I signed the lease on a studio apartment. It was tiny, barely 400 square feet, but it had a deadbolt lock, and my name was the only one on the paperwork. The night I moved in, I sat on my second-hand futon surrounded by blank walls and felt something like peace for the first time in years. My phone continued to light up with messages from my parents. At first, they demanded to know where I was, why I'd left so abruptly. Then came the guilt. We're so worried. Family doesn't abandon family. This is breaking your mother's heart. I responded only enough to let them know I was safe, then muted the conversations. Tyler never reached out at all. 6 months passed. I rebuilt my savings, bought a used laptop, found a single decent job with better hours. Sometimes I thought about my guitar, still in Tyler's closet, or the irreplaceable photos on my stolen laptop. But the pain dulled with time and distance. Then came the text from my mother. Tyler's getting evicted from his apartment. We thought he was paying rent, but he wasn't. Dad and I can't take him in right now because of the renovations. He mentioned staying with you for a few weeks. I stared at the message for a long time before composing my reply. No. The response was immediate. He's your brother, Ryan. And I'm your son, I wrote back. But that didn't matter when he stole everything I had. I turned off my phone after that, made dinner in my small kitchen, and ate while watching the sunset through my single window. The studio wasn't much, but every item in it was mine, protected by boundaries I'd finally learned to set. What Tyler had stolen wasn't just possessions or money. He'd taken my sense of security, my place in my family, my belief in basic fairness. What my parents had taken was even worse. My trust that they would protect me as fiercely as they protected him. Without meaning to, they had shown me exactly where I stood. The responsible one who could be endlessly tapped for resources, emotional and financial, without reciprocity. Sometimes I missed them. Family shapes you for better or worse. But as I build my new life, steady job, small apartment, genuine friends, I understand that walking away wasn't weakness. It was the first truly adult decision I ever made. Not out of spite or anger, but out of self-preservation and self-respect. My brother stole everything from me. My parents took his side. And in losing it all, I finally found what I needed most. The courage to start over on my own terms.